Sometimes you don't even know you're watching the last match a legend will ever wrestle while it's happening. Other times, that one last match turns out not to be so final after all, but the emotion is still there. Batista started his wrestling career much later than his peers, but he quickly rose to the top after joining the Evolution stable, which also included Triple H, Randy Orton, and Ric Flair. After the stable imploded, Batista went on to become one of the biggest stars of his generation. In the 2010s, Batista's acting career ramped up, and he only returned to WWE on occasion. He had a run for a few months in 2014 before declaring that he quit. He then came back one last time in 2019 to feud with his old stablemate Triple H. After some heated words, including Batista's famous "Give Me What I Want" promo, the two faced off in a no-holds-barred match at WrestleMania 35. Interestingly, a career was on the line, but it was Triple H's, not Batista's. Early in their match, the two men clashed outside the ring. Triple H choked Batista with a chain, then used pliers on Batista's fingers and ripped his nose ring out. The animal ultimately regained some momentum and ended up slamming the game through an announce table. Triple H soon came back, though, bringing out his signature sledgehammer. That was met with a spear from Batista. The animal then hit a Batista bomb for a 2 count. By the end of the nearly 25-minute bout, Triple H had hit 2 pedigrees to keep Batista down. Following the match, Batista announced his retirement.
I will not have another wrestling match. I will go broke before I have another wrestling match, and I will not go and wrestle for another promotion.
Triple H may not have known it at the time, but it marked his last WrestleMania match too. A heart condition led to a medical emergency in 2021 that forced him to retire from in-ring action. The Undertaker had a career that would be the envy of just about any wrestler, and it seemed like Taker had a hard time giving it up, repeatedly indicating that he was retired only to come back. Remember when he left his hat and coat in the ring after losing to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 32? It was 4 years later at WrestleMania 36 in 2020 that The Undertaker actually seemed to hang up his boots for real. He faced AJ Styles in a cinematic Boneyard match that turned out to be his last. Taker handpicked Styles because he said Styles reminded him of Shawn Michaels. WrestleMania 36 required some creativity. It was an audience-less event in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the Boneyard match was certainly creative. It was more like a movie than a pro wrestling match. The two faced off in a graveyard, attempting to bury one another. There were music cues. Styles' buddies, the Good Brothers, got involved, as did a group of robed druids. After falling into a grave, The Undertaker teleported to get the upper hand. In the end, The Undertaker stood tall after burying Styles. Not too long after, Mark Calaway finally shed his persona and presented himself to the world as the man who portrayed The Undertaker for decades. The match has been praised by many for Taker's performance and Styles' willingness to put over the Phenom one more time. As of the making of this video, Calaway hasn't broken his retirement yet. Sting is another legend who retired before he retired. He got injured in his match with Seth Rollins at WWE Night of Champions in 2015 and announced his retirement when he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame the following year.
You got the crowd chanting, "One more match, one more match, one more match," and I wanted that one more match, but you know what, it is time.
But then he arrived in AEW in 2020. Despite being in his 60s, the icon proved that he could still keep up with the young talent and often pushed his body by performing death-defying stunts. Even Sting couldn't wrestle forever, though. In October 2023, he announced that he would have his final match at AEW Revolution in March 2024. Many believed his final match would be a singles encounter, potentially against his protege Darby Allin. Instead, Sting and Darby won the AEW World Tag Team Championships and entered a feud with the Young Bucks. In Sting's final episode of Dynamite, the icon recreated his iconic WCW entrances, descending from the rafters to save Ric Flair and Allin from Matthew and Nicholas Jackson. The fanfare continued into the actual match. Sting walked out along with his sons dressed as two of his previous personas, Surfer Sting and Wolfpack Sting. The spectacle of it all was capped off with Allin taking a plunge off a ladder from the inside of the ring through a pane of glass on the outside. With Allin incapacitated from the fall, Sting faced the Bucks all by himself, and despite them pushing him to his limit, he outsmarted both. The icon won with the Scorpion Deathlock. In the end, Sting retired as a champion. The Ultimate Warrior was one of the most popular stars of his generation, but his ability in the ring has been subject to criticism by some of his peers and even fans. Yet this never really detracted from his status as a legend, leading to his WWE Hall of Fame induction shortly before his sudden death in 2014. Warrior's last WWE match was against Owen Hart on Monday Night Raw in 1996. After that, he went to WCW, where his last match was at Halloween Havoc 1998 against Hulk Hogan. A decade later, in 2008, he put on the face paint one last time in a match against Orlando Jordan at a show for European promotion New Wrestling Entertainment. In front of a crowd of 15,000 people in Spain, Warrior battled Jordan for the NWE heavyweight title. Even in his prime, Warrior wasn't known for his stamina, and this match was no different. Warrior showboated his way through spots, which Jordan set up nicely for the aging veteran. After 2 lariats and a shoulder block, Warrior defeated Jordan and captured the title. But instead of walking off with the belt, he thanked Jordan and returned the belt to the promotion. Warrior didn't return to the ring after that, making him a bit of an anomaly among his wrestling peers. William Regal never captured a world championship in WWE, but his character work and in-ring ability have made him a favorite among fans and his peers. Since his retirement, Regal has become known for his role as general manager of NXT, as well as forming the Blackpool Combat Club faction during his brief stint in AEW. One member of that faction, Claudio Castagnoli, spent quite a few years on WWE's main roster as Cesaro. In 2013, Cesaro would occasionally make his way down to NXT for some spotlight matches, including one with Regal that aired on Christmas Day. In a promo ahead of the match, Regal claimed he had been looking back at his legacy and admitted that his career was nearing its end. He noted he had failed ambitions to capture a world heavyweight title, but he praised the Swiss Superman and said facing him would be an honorable way to end his career. The match was a technical exhibition, with both men targeting each other's weaknesses. Cesaro had the clear athletic advantage, though, leading to him dominating the much older Regal. Even so, Cesaro didn't relish the final moments of the match, when he knew one more move would end the bout and his opponent's career. Even after the victory, Cesaro didn't seem to find any pleasure in winning. Though the match with Cesaro was his last televised match, Regal has admitted to wrestling a match since against Sami Zayn at a WWE tryout in Dubai for demonstration purposes.
We were in Dubai and in front of 30 people that were trying out.
In hindsight, Stone Cold Steve Austin's run at the top was relatively short. He won his first world championship at WrestleMania 14 in 1998, and it was all over by WrestleMania 19 in 2003. Austin was arguably the most popular WWE superstar ever, but he knew that he couldn't keep going forever because of the many injuries he had sustained over the years. Austin intended his match against longtime rival The Rock at WrestleMania 19 to be his last, but the crowd didn't know that at the time. The Rock had recently returned to WWE as his Hollywood persona and began saying how he'd done nearly everything in the industry except beat Austin at WrestleMania. The bout itself included many spots where both men pushed the rules and tried to strangle the other. In typical heel fashion, The Rock continuously targeted Austin's knees and even used the sharpshooter in an attempt to get a submission victory. Austin hit back by stealing the Rock bottom and getting a 2 count. Unfortunately for Austin, he ate his own finisher, a stunner, from the People's Champ. The Rock eventually won after hitting 3 Rock bottoms. Stone Cold kept his promise to stay retired for 19 years, but he returned to the ring at WrestleMania 38, where he defeated Kevin Owens in a no-holds-barred match, and he has teased that he may have one more match left in him.
In the future, I'm not lobbying for it, but could anything happen? Yes.
Trish Stratus is one of the most accomplished women of her generation. She captured gold multiple times at a time when women had far fewer opportunities in wrestling than they do today. Despite her success, Stratus eventually decided to step away from the industry, and in 2006, she did just that. Stratus's most persistent frenemy was Lita, so there was no better opponent to, as it seemed at the time, end her career. The two went toe-to-toe in Stratus's hometown of Toronto at the Unforgiven pay-per-view. After some back-and-forth brawling, Lita missed a moonsault, giving Stratus a crucial 2 count, but Stratus couldn't keep Lita down. She attempted her finisher, the Stratusfaction, but Lita countered. Ultimately, it took a sharpshooter to end the match, allowing Stratus to attempt to finish her career in her hometown with a win. But her career, of course, was not over. Stratus returned to the ring just 2 years later, teaming with John Cena to take on Beth Phoenix and Santino Marella. In the years since, Stratus has come back to WWE for one-offs and short runs numerous times, most recently feuding with Becky Lynch in 2023 and proving that she still has plenty of gas left in the tank. The Nature Boy, Ric Flair, is considered to be one of the greatest to ever step into the ring. Over his lengthy career, Flair faced the best in the industry, and by 2007, he had probably accomplished everything there was to do. Flair didn't see it that way, though. In a promo addressing his hometown crowd in Charlotte, North Carolina, he turned what many believed to be a retirement speech into a passionate declaration that he would never retire. But then WWE head Vince McMahon stipulated that a single defeat would mean the end of Flair's career. Flair racked up a few wins, but hit a massive roadblock in the form of Shawn Michaels. The two clashed at WrestleMania 24 in March 2008. Despite his age, 58 at the time, Flair took a beating from Michaels and just kept going, walking off massive moves like a moonsault from the top to the outside and his own figure 4 leg lock. But after around 21 minutes, Flair was spent. He could barely stand, while Michaels was in the corner winding up for one more sweet chin music. Flair struggled toward Michaels with tears in his eyes, while his opponent mouthed, "I'm sorry, I love you," before hitting the final kick. For years, this was regarded as one of the most beautiful swan songs in the industry. Of course, Flair couldn't stay out for long. He wrestled Hulk Hogan on the Hulkamania Tour in Australia 2009, then signed with TNA in 2010, finally supposedly retiring again in 2012. What seems to be his for real last match came in 2022, when he was 73 at the Ric Flair's last match event, and honestly, the less said about that, the better.
Ric Flair will walk that aisle one more time. Guaranteed this time to be the last time.
2 years after retiring Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels vowed that he'd walk away himself if he didn't end The Undertaker's undefeated streak on his second try at WrestleMania 26. The foundations for their feud were laid during 2007's Royal Rumble, which saw the two veterans as the last two men standing. After a 10-minute brawl, Undertaker walked away with the victory. The two men came to blows again at WrestleMania 25, at which Michaels wore a white jacket and hat as an inversion of The Undertaker's dark gimmick. The match allegedly exceeded the time limit, but Vince McMahon urged production to allow the two to continue, leading to an epic clash. Despite failing to beat Undertaker, Michaels wanted one more match. Michaels hounded Taker to give him another shot, eventually offering up his career if he lost. Undertaker relented, and the veterans went head-to-head again. Despite a valiant effort, Michaels went down after The Undertaker hit him with a jumping tombstone piledriver, ending the career of the showstopper. That is, until 8 years later at Crown Jewel 2018, where Michaels teamed up with Triple H to take on the man who retired him, The Undertaker, and Kane. Sadly, the match has been widely panned, and many fans still choose to believe that Michaels retired at WrestleMania 26.